Welcome to special breaking news coverage here on NBA TV. It is a homecoming for Dwyane Wade, going back to Chicago, according to Adrian Wojnarowski and The Vertical. He will go back home to play for the Chicago Bulls. All he's known, the Miami Heat, during his career, 13 years. Three-time champion, finals MVP, 12 All-Star appearances, and now he will leave Pat Riley and Mickey Arison and Miami to go back home to Chicago. What does it mean for Wade in terms of dollars? We wait for that. What does it mean now for the Chicago Bulls? Obviously, Rondo set in the backcourt. Does this mean they try and be more competitive? Do they set themselves up now for some space for some of those max deals coming up in the big free agent year next year as well? To our set, and DZ in the house. So, Dennis, Dwyane Wade, you know, it's funny. David Aldridge said something, DA said something interesting before. He said that he thought this was more surprising than Durant actually leaving OKC to go to the Warriors. How stunned are you that he goes back to Chicago?
I'm very stunned. I'm almost as surprised. The main reason because that's who drafted you. That's who you've been there with. And maybe you added more to it because you won championships there. You have Wade County down in Miami. So all the fans and all the people I've talked to in the last 30 minutes, everyone is really in shock. They can't believe they think this is April Fool's. I'm like, you're in the wrong month right now. So we're not trying to fool you. But when you look at the situation closely, D. Wade is very tired now of taking lessons, saying, okay, all right, Pat, what are we going to do next? Because each year when LeBron was there, they got better, they added the right pieces, and they won championships. Since then, the Blue Isle Dings, all the Band-Aids, bringing Joe Johnson last year, it was okay. But D. Wade said, that's not getting me back over the hump and getting me back to the finals where I'm competing, so I'll give up less if I'm getting close to that ring. Now I'm not getting close to the ring, so I either want to go somewhere where I'm wanted or pay me like we call it the Kobe now. Give me the Kobe treatment. Give me a one-year deal or two-year deal where I'm overpaid to some people's eyes. But at the end of the day, I've given you everything from day one of my career, and now you're going to treat me like this in the last hour?
Well, here's the unanswerable question then, as a player, and I don't want to actually tell people there's spoiler, no Santa, but athletes are actually people too. So just like you and I at work or anybody else, right, you want to get shown the love. How do you get Dwyane Wade, who's the face of the franchise? We had somebody covering this team who said he's basically been more to that city than Dan Marino was.
Yes.
So that's saying something huge. How could Pat Riley, Mickey Arison, and the Heat not do whatever is necessary to make sure he finishes his career there?
The only thing I can think of is sometimes the owners, general managers say the business, the money just is too much for them right now. Maybe they don't want to go to the threshold of maybe going over the cap for D. Wade and paying extra money. But you say to yourself, you look at other franchises, you look at other sports, you pay that guy who's been that face to your question for all these years. Fans were all across the country. Think about D. Wade. And now they're saying to themselves, is the owner being cheap, that they won't take care of guys just giving you everything, played through injuries, got his body back to where it's been the last couple of years so he can compete at a very high level, and now you're not matching him at this point at the very end. You look at Magic Johnson, I just think of all the different names. You say to yourself, those guys stayed. You see how Mark Cuban's treating Dirk Nowitzki. He's staying. So things of that nature, you're saying, what's going on in Miami, and a guy like Pat Riley not getting it right.
You know, you look at the Bulls, and all the conversation, I've been saying this all night, is going to be about the homecoming. And look, that's nice to talk about. It certainly has something to do with it. But I want to know what you think now about the Bulls' philosophy, because we sat here a few days ago, and this was a team that was retooling, they're rebuilding, they're not doing anything except kind of holding the fort until the money's free next year. How much more of a legitimate, forget threat, relevant team do you consider the Bulls to be now in the East? Are they a playoff team with Dwyane Wade?
I think they're more interesting now, obviously with Rondo officially signing, and then you have Jimmy Butler still there. So from a wing standpoint, you say they have some pieces to make things interesting. But then how far can they go? Maybe to this first, get out of the first round, maybe. But now you're asking D. Wade to play like the old D. Wade. You're asking Jimmy Butler to get like the Jimmy Butler we've seen the last couple of years. Can Rondo have a flash in the pan back from his Boston days? That's asking a lot of three guys in that Eastern Conference. So I think we have to wait and see. There's some more pieces need to be added to it.
You know, here's the interesting thing. It seemed like, if you've been following it, I'm sure you have the reports, tweets the last couple of days, and we were talking about this a little bit before, 3 years, right? That was what everybody thought. Well, okay, if somebody offers him the 3 years, then at least that would make sense. He'll leave Miami. He wants the stability. He's getting 2 years, which A, tells you something about the relationship with Miami. B, it leads me to ask you about next year's free agency. because I wonder how much of the discussion was next year with all the max players that are available. It's a big free agent market. Then you got Durant who could opt out. You got Westbrook and others. Is this a team who could be now attractive where Wade says, I'll go to Chicago and maybe...
Wade, I know I'm getting older. I know I've been in Miami my whole career. I'm hoping I could work that out. Now I'm going back to you saying I'm selling this story. I'm going to get a chance to go back home, see my friends and family I grew up with, and maybe finish my career there. But it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right because wherever D-Wade does the next 2 of the years, we know what's going to happen. When he retires, he has that big makeup thing we've seen guys do, and he goes back to Miami for whatever parade it may be. But leaving right now, I'm still shocked like the rest of the world.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, and according to the Vertical, nobody offered that 3rd year. Now we see in the homecoming.
It's his age, though. I think it's more of his age.
Well, I understand. Yeah, I get that.
But it should be more so for Miami to say, we'll give you that extra year because you've been there for us.
Right.
You've been to the free throw line.
Right.
I remember the old commercial. You've fallen down 7 times to get up to 8th time. All those old things D-Wade did for you, man. You've earned it.
You've earned it.
So give it to him.
That's
I can see an outsider not giving him that 3rd year. But your own home, what do you say, no place like home?
Yeah, I don't think no Cowboy fan wanted to see Emmitt Smith in an Arizona Cardinals jersey.
Thank you for bringing that up. I'm a Cowboy
You're welcome.
fan. Thank you.
That's why I'm here.
Thank you.
I knew that. I read your bio.
Oh, okay, good.
Vincent Goodwill, kind enough to join us from CSN Chicago, insider, of course, for the Bulls. So you've been on this story. Vincent, did you get a sense that this went over the last couple of days from a meeting maybe intended for some leverage and then became more serious as the conversations went along?
I think the Bulls were viewed, Casey, as sort of an outsider looking in. They never really tried to take it too seriously because they had been walked down the path a couple of times before with Dwyane Wade. And they never honestly thought that Miami would not come to the table with an offer that Dwyane Wade would find satisfactory. But as time went on, as it got closer and closer to today, to Dwyane Wade's self-imposed deadline of getting this done tonight, you could see that the urgency was there from Miami's point, but the chances of a reconciliation, the chances of those two coming to an agreement were really not going to be likely. The Denver deal was out there, 2 years for $50 million. I think that was the deal that Dwyane Wade wanted all along as far as the money in the years, as far as maybe not adding the 3rd year, but adding it. But 2 years and $50 million, I think that's what he wanted the Heat to match. And as time went on, the Heat didn't seem willing to do it without being able to make a trade, and the Bulls were able to get just close enough with trading Mike Dunleavy to the Cleveland Cavaliers and then Jose Calderon to the Lakers to show Wade enough love, enough respect to make Wade make the decision to leave Miami and come back to Chicago.
You know, Vincent, a lot of times in these sales pitches in free agency, you have to sell the city that the player is going to. Obviously, that's not necessary here because Wade is from Chicago. So I'm curious, how much was there a conversation about the competitive nature of the Bulls this year, maybe even more importantly with money available next year coming to free agency?
Well, I think well, first off, there is a player option for the 2nd year for Dwyane Wade, so it's not like he's locked into next year when the salary cap jumps even more, and assuming that he has a similar sort of year, he'll be able to get back on the market and do something again, whether it's with the Bulls or with another franchise. I think he wants to keep his options open, but if he's going to take a 1-year flyer, he can go play with a guy like Jimmy Butler who can sort of take the edge off of him having to be on the opposing team's drawing board every night as a top perimeter guy. He won't have to take on that responsibility. Not saying they're similar to playing with LeBron James, but he's playing with a guy who's better than him, so he can sort of roam and play a little bit freely without having a responsibility that he had in Miami the last couple of years. And if things sort of work out, at least he's in Chicago where he's familiar, where his foundation is, where he does a lot of charity work here, where he still loves the Chicago area. And then you sort of move forward with an open mind with Fred Hoiberg, with the front office, playing with Jimmy Butler, and on top of that, staying in the Eastern Conference where he can see the Miami Heat 3 or 4 times a year, staying in the Eastern Conference where he can be head up against his buddy LeBron James in Cleveland. I think that was something that was very important to him. He didn't want to go to parts unknown. I think he wanted to stay close enough for people to be reminded of his greatness.
You know, Vincent, there's always this argument, chicken before the egg kind of a thing with, do you bring in coaches that fit your personnel or do you mold the personnel around the coach? Fred Hoiberg wants to go ahead and go up and down. Now you've got players who are going to go in isolation, go late into the shot clock, kind of be the opposite of that. So how does that all work? How does this fit, if at all, what Fred Hoiberg had wanted to do initially?
It doesn't fit what Fred Hoiberg wants to do. He wants pace and space. He wants to shoot a lot of threes. Dwyane Wade shot 15% from three last year. Jimmy Butler shot 33%. The best three-point shooter out of the trio is Rajon Rondo. How many times would you ever say in a situation that Rajon Rondo is the best three-point shooter? So, as a coach, he's going to have to conceive an offense that gets Wade the ball where he wants it, working the elbows, working the block, and getting him a chance to slash and get to the line, while also making life easier for Jimmy Butler, who, although he scored 20 points a game last year, it was a hard 20 points. He wound up on the floor a lot, getting to the line. That takes a toll on his body. And not only that, you have to figure out a way to maximize what Rajon Rondo can do. He's not a guy who want to attack all the time, but he can finish in the paint. He is one of the top finishers in the restricted area. I think he shot around 63% last year, which is much better than the predecessor, Derrick Rose. The problem is, how do you get all three of these guys who are not jump shooters, who are ball-dominant players, to fit together when that's hard to do, even if you run a sort of archaic offense to begin with? This is going to be a test for Fred Hoiberg in his second year, where he really struggled in his first year of getting his players and his personnel on the same page.
Vincent, last one for me. This is not obviously Dwyane Wade of 7 years ago. You're around the city. You're around the team. What do you sense will be the reaction and how warmly this will be received from Bulls fans who probably had a lot of trepidation about next season and weren't exactly too enthused about where the team was headed?
Well, I think it will be sort of mixed, because the reaction that we got at the end of the season from the Bulls front office, Gar Forman and John Paxson, was that they want to get younger, they want to get more athletic, and then they bring in Rajon Rondo and Dwyane Wade, and that doesn't necessarily fit the bill. The problem was the free agent market was so undercalculated, I guess, by the Bulls front office. They did not anticipate some of the numbers coming out, so they took a step back and freed themselves up for a position to get a Dwyane Wade. Now, they'll sell it as being patient and being able to take advantage of a player who was unhappy in a situation, and that they were able to facilitate cap space and everything else. So I think that will be a positive. Plus, Dwyane Wade is a hometown kid. He's from Chicago. You're losing Derrick Rose, who will be playing for the New York Knicks next year. So you would get a boost in that department. You're just wondering, there's going to be questions about the fit. There's going to be questions about the hierarchy in the locker room. But you'd rather have those type of questions with talent in the room than not having talent in the room.
Vincent, appreciate this. Thanks on a busy night for joining us for a few.
All right, take it easy, guys.
All right, there's Vincent Goodwill, CSN Chicago. So let me go here. You've got Miami, right, who lets the face of the franchise walk. You've got the Bulls, the Cubs. The Cubs have actually been relevant. This is where I'm at now, the Cubs. You got the Bulls for obviously bringing in Dwyane Wade. That's how flustered I am from the fact that Dwyane Wade will not be home, people in Miami. Yeah. You've got the Bulls bringing Wade home in a situation where he doesn't fit because the team wants to go up and down, and he's not going to do that. Who's this the best for? Is this the best for Dwyane Wade to maybe get a fresh lease on life for a year, go to Chicago? Is it the best for the Bulls to kind of be more relevant? Does everybody kind of lose in this situation?
Well, believe it or not, great question, Casey. I think it's a win for both because at least they can sell that to their fans, one of their owners coming home. But it's really a look-see for both sides because you're asking yourself, will D. Wade's body continue to hold up like it did last year where it shocked a lot of people? He played, I think, 70 games it was. So if he can play that amount of games again and be productive and play at a high level, now he goes back in the free agents again. He'll probably opt out, but now he's 34, and now teams are still looking at that. He's not getting any younger. Now, where does that large salary fit with the new team, or if he stays with Chicago, to your previous question of trying to get more people to maybe come back to Chicago, great city, great history there. But at the end of the day, D-Wade, can you stay healthy and can you remind us you still can get it done at a high level?
74 games last year, played for Dwyane Wade. You know, we talk about 13 years and 12 All-Stars and all those things. So for Miami, the identity is going to be a question. With no offense at all to Hassan Whiteside, who they jumped on early, not a guy who's the face of the franchise guy. Winslow is too young, even though he would like, you know, having the ability to be that guy. Where do the Heat go from here? Now when you look at the Miami Heat going into this season, what do you see?
They're starting over. I mean, all that young talent, Whiteside young, Winslow young, Josh Richardson, who I really love, this young kid from Tennessee. In his second year, he's already having a phenomenal couple games in the summer league. So you like their young talent, but now you're asking them to play like veterans overnight because they don't have that veteran leadership in the locker room with D-Wade. We've already talked about Chris Bosh and his health, so we have to wait and see how that unfolds. So Luau Deng leaving, not bringing back Joe Johnson. There's not a lot of veteran leadership in that locker room now.
Well, you know, Dwyane Wade, obviously this is not an easy decision for him. You'll hear a lot of that on Live with Kelly, so I can't tell you exactly what he'll say. We can tell you this from Tim Reynolds from the AP, from Dwyane Wade. From the bottom of my heart, I want to thank the Miami community, especially #HeatNation, for all of their love and support.